Hi, welcome back to How to Gain Muscle from MacroWOD. I'm Peter Haas, and today we'll be talking about how to plan out your mass phase for optimal results. So we're going to set a big picture view of how we will approach this so that you can make sense of how to approach it day to day and make adjustments as we go along. So first we'll talk about the total duration. So the total duration of this mass phase, it's not going to exceed 12 weeks. That's the upper limit. So you'll quit doing it. You'll stop massing either when you hit your desired body weight, which we'll talk about in a second, or 12 weeks go by. So that's going to be the cap. Most people, if this is your first time around massing, unless you're already pretty close to your ideal body weight, will actually need to break up the massing into phases. Just like we usually do the cutting in different phases, we'll have to do a couple different phases. Now, there's a couple different reasons for this. One is as a training deload. We'll talk about this in a subsequent lesson, but you'll be doing, you'll have to do a lot of training to get bigger. Okay, so you can't just eat a lot of food and expect to gain pure muscle. Okay, if you just eat a lot of food and don't exercise, what does that sound like? Recipe for fat gain. Okay, so we're going to have to increase our training volume, which we'll talk about more in depth in a subsequent lesson, to really maximize our muscle gain. Okay, so what's the second reason we're not going to extend out past 12 weeks is your body is just going to stop building muscle at some point in time and really just switch over to burning fat. So, building fat. So we do that to keep the ratio of fat building to muscle building, somewhere that we want it to be. So after 12 weeks, your fat gain just really starts shooting up. So we'll cap it at that. Third reason is to reset what's called your set point. So you're and you run into the same thing when you cut. So when you lose weight, your body had existed at a certain weight, and it wants to get back to that weight. So you might, that's why you hear a lot of people, when they cut, they blow back up once they go back to their quote unquote normal eating. So the same thing can happen with when you mass. When you go up, your body wants to go back down to that point. So it actually does a lot of really interesting adaptation things to try to get you back to that point. But we're not going to go into that right now. So what you want to do is mass for 12 weeks, and then you want to mass for 12 weeks, and then you want to maintain. And that maintenance will help you reset that set point so your body is comfortable and used to carrying that new amount of muscle mass. Because your goal is to act, so just like you don't want to put fat back on after your cut, when you go back to maintenance, your goal with the mass is to keep the mass and not lose it. And the best way to lose that is to not eat as much or have your body burn it back off through increased activity. So we'll adopt a strategy to preserve that at the end. You also really will probably get sick of eating. Like I said, that's probably that actually is one of the adaptations. You just stop being hungry all the time. You're dealing with a lot of hunger on a cut. When you mass, you stop wanting to eat. It's fun for like the first week or two, or maybe the first month, especially if you can get eating ice cream, eating stuff you weren't able to eat on a cut. But it's really a lot of work. Like once you are really in it, or if you've done one or two or three cycles of massing, like gaining muscles work. It's not just like, especially if you don't want to get fat like we're trying to do. Like you have to be diligent about it at the right times. So it's not just eating donuts and ice cream all the time. So and you might not be hungry for that food after a couple weeks of eating that way. So, and then the final reason is you just you miss your abs. Again, like I was very blunt with the last video, you will gain some body fat doing this on top of the muscle. So you might, the leanest points you were on your cut, you will no longer be that by the end of your mass. So you might. So don't freak out. Like I said, we'll do a lot of measuring, but you just might miss your abs. So that's fine. I want to get back to them. Okay, so our max limit is 12 weeks. So within that 12 weeks, we're going to set a optimum rate of gain. So just like with the cut, I look to have a certain amount of loss per week to know whether we're losing too fast or losing too slow. I look to see whether we're gaining too fast or gaining too slow. So if we're gaining too fast, that means we're putting on more fat than is desirable. If we're gaining too slow, again, we're just not moving very quickly, and we're just wasting time that we could be using to mass. Okay, so we want to find a optimal rate, and that optimal rate is going to be a bit slower than when you're cutting. The rate for massing is going to be 0.3 to 0.7 of your body weight, as opposed to 0.5 to 1.0 of your body weight per week. It's just a little bit harder to add. It's just harder to mass than it is to cut fat from your body's perspective. You're adding a metabolically active tissue as opposed to burning up a storage vessel. So we're just going to use a slightly smaller rate. Okay. So you're going to use that those two numbers, the maximum length combined with the maximum rate, to actually make a goal for how much weight you want to gain. So if we're capped out at gaining 0.7 per week over 12 weeks, then we'll figure out what your body weight is now. So we'll figure out, using the ideal body calculations for a CrossFitter. You can say like, well, okay, I need to be 15 pounds heavier. Okay, well, if you're 150 pounds, then 15 is too much to gain in those 12 weeks. It's going to exceed that 0.7%. So what we'll have to do is break it up into a couple different phases. If you only need to gain 5 pounds or less and you're 175, 180 pounds, that's a lot more doable within those 12 weeks. You might even only need 10 weeks or 8 weeks. So there will be a maximum cap again on how much weight you can gain in the phase, just to avoid gaining too much fat respectively to the muscles. So okay, so again, to recap, we're going to do 12 weeks. We're going to do 0.3 to 0.7 of your body weight per week increase. That's the goal rate. We'll make adjustments if it's not, and we'll talk about that in the next lesson. And then we'll create, after this lesson, we'll create a total weight gain goal to stay on track. So look below this video for activities on how to do all of that. Good luck. Let me know if you have any questions. Post the comments, and I look forward to talking to you in the next lesson.